Hi, and welcome to ThreatTraq Essentials. We're going to take a look at some everyday cybersecurity lessons that we can learn from this week's ThreatTraq stories. I'm here with Stan Nurilov, who was on the show this week. How you doing, Stan?
I'm doing very well, Don. Thank you.
Let's talk about some of the stories that were on the show this week. First one you brought to us, which was about an automaker that had a lot of data that was exposed on the internet. Tell me how that happened.
So it seemed like they had set up an Elasticsearch instance. It's a technology where you put your logs into. And unfortunately, they left it in an unauthenticated state, meaning anyone could access it, anyone on the internet who just happened to stumble
And they
upon
didn't even realize it.
And they didn't even realize it. So luckily, the security researcher was able to find it first, notified the security organization within that automaker, and they were able to take that offline, properly authenticated so it wouldn't be accessible by unauthorized people. And then, of course, also they investigated to see if anybody had accessed it in an unauthorized way, and they were found that no one did.
And what was interesting is this wasn't what we classically think of as like a data breach where it's like credit card information, social security numbers. This was different kind of data about what computers, what software people were using within the company. But tell me why that is dangerous as well, for that data to be out there.
That data is very sensitive because it speaks to maybe how the network is architected, and every company, every enterprise, small or large, is probably under the potential threat of some kind of an attack from an adversary in a cybersecurity way. So generally, when an advanced adversary attacks you, their first step is to do reconnaissance and try to figure out how is your network laid out and how do I access the resources that I'm most interested in. For example, when an advanced adversary attacks you, they probably don't necessarily care about like your billing department, but they might care about advanced technologies. So having your data exposed, for example, the titles of all of your employees exposed on the internet.
That could be used like for phishing attacks, right?
Could be used for phishing, very targeted phishing.
Because they have all information. They could write to you about some project you're working on. It'll sound more authentic because they have that data.
Exactly. They know what business unit you're from. And then they'll also be able to see the structure of the company. They'll be able to see who you report to, so they can make the message a little bit more credible.
So then what advice can we give people here? I mean, if you didn't work for this specific automaker, is there a lesson to be learned about what data you're putting out there about yourself and how that could be used against you?
I think in this particular instance, it's about protecting technology that might be new, that you might even be experimenting with. So it seems like they brought this appliance on very recently and may not have secured it, or may have maybe recently patched it or something like that, exposing it to the internet. So really, anybody who is deploying something new and something that they're putting out there internet accessible, you have to really verify that only authorized people can access it, that nobody who is not allowed to see the information can access it. And then, of course, any information that's internet accessible, it should go through review to make sure there's no sensitive data. And sensitive data might not be just customer records, which is very sensitive. It might be other things like the architecture of your network or different endeavors that you're working on in business.
So the lesson there is really any kind of data can be used against you in attack. You have to be careful about it. Let's talk about Tom's story. It was about a group called Strong Pity. What did he discover about them?
I think advanced adversary groups are always changing their tactics. And so one of the tactics that Tom had discovered about them is how when they do phishing, there's specific types of individuals that they might target. And the way that we're able to figure that out is by the software packages that they try to Trojanize. So for example, WinRAR, a very well-known tool that's used by a lot of IT administrators for archiving files. So I think the story to me is interesting because of who is targeted in IT. It means anyone can be targeted. And again, it's software packages that we use maybe every day in IT and network management. So we have to always be careful.
So really, anytime you're downloading software that you use any kind of tool, you really need to be careful and vet where it's from and do it from a trusted source.
Yes, and even sometimes when things you're downloading freeware tools, which is very common for small businesses, when you are downloading free tools, you have to even be careful on some of those websites because sometimes they have advertising surrounded the download page.
And if you click on the wrong thing.
And you might click on the wrong thing and accidentally get something you weren't expecting.
Bindu brought us a story about another very targeted attack. Tell me about that.
Bindu's story to me was fascinating because it had to do with an advanced group and phishing. And phishing to me is an interesting topic because it seems like almost anyone can be phished with even a generic message. And it might just depend on even the business function that they perform within the company. As security professionals, we're always looking at things suspiciously and always looking for the gotcha in any email message. But people who are doing their business function in a business, they're just trying to get through the day and make sure they carry the business forward.
Do their job.
Yeah, do their job.
So these phishing attacks can really target you specifically with what you do at your job so it doesn't look suspicious.
Even when at an IT level, it doesn't seem all that tailored or all that special just to get to you. I think I mentioned to Bindu, it reminded me of a story where there was a person habitually clicking on what would appear like phishing emails having to do with, hey, track the status of your package.
Oh, like the fake, you have a package coming, and normally we tell people, if you didn't order something, don't click on it because... Yes,
except in this instance, the person was working in the shipping department and it was their job to make sure they knew where all the packages were. So clicking on an email like that was very simple for that. And that kind of taught me that adversaries don't even have to be that complicated. In medium or any kind of business, really, sometimes people wear multiple hats. They might be thinking, yes, I have an order or something that's coming. So given that, how do you protect against it if some of the classic red flags that we warn people against in a phishing email may be part of their job? Like shipping people have to open shipping notices, accountants have to open up invoices. So what advice can we give people? I think we always rely on people to kind of be that first layer of defense, but that's kind of why we have technology, and the technology should help our people, our employees, to kind of do their job. So if they did open an email that was malicious, there should be controls to prevent an exploit or a payload from executing. And unfortunately, sometimes those defenses fail. So there should be a monitoring solution to say, hey, if we weren't able to stop the execution of this malware, can we at least detect that something strange has happened? Someone should be looking for that and responding to it. So having a layered approach to your defense posture is very, very important. Not every single thing you do is going to be 100% foolproof, unfortunately. Though you shouldn't rely on that. You should still be careful anyway with phishing emails. But all people should be careful. And sometimes, unfortunately, I guess we don't always realize it, but it can be unfortunate when things are just too tricky because of a person's role. If possible, maybe those people within your organization need special training to be able to tell the difference between an invoice email that has to do with legitimate packages from vendors that they trust and an invoice email that maybe does not look legitimate at all. And looking at that level of detail to really tailor the training to these individuals. So the attackers are always getting more targeted and more clever, and we have to keep up with them. Yes. Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here, Stan. That's it for this week's ThreatTraq Essentials. As always, you can click on the playlist below to take a deeper dive into any of these stories and learn more. We'll see you next time.